Alright guys, it's me again, Mr. Horath, and now I'm going to show you how to use something called the laser etcher. Really with the 3D printer, which was the first machine I showed you, it's pretty forgiving. You're probably not going to do anything that could screw up the whole world or like burn down the school or something by accident. And it's also kind of a cheaper machine compared to the laser etcher. So once you know how to use that, you can just kind of tell a teacher you're using it, or Miss Angel, check in with her. The laser etcher, you should always have an adult supervising you before you actually go to print something. But this is the process to make something to print. We're going to go here, open up Corel Draw, and you could use other programs in theory, but I don't know why that comes up when we click on Corel Draw, but that's what comes up. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to click, oops, I can't exactly see that. I want to make this darker. I'm going to click New Document. Is that making it more visible? I think it is, yeah. I'm going to click where it says New Document, and there's already a preset in here that says, if I go to Preset Destination, there's a thing that says Zing Tray 24 inches by 12 inches, or 2412. I'm going to click that, and that's going to set up everything else for me. It's going to make it 24 inches wide by 12 inches tall, and that's the same size as the laser etcher bed. I'm going to go ahead and back off on exposure now so we can see this a little better. Put this right here, and I should be able to guide you through this on the screen. There's only a couple basics with the machine you're using. As far as printing, you can put anything in this space that you want to print, and it's going to be interpreted by the laser machine in one of two ways. The first way is it's going to treat it like a cut. It's going to try to cut through the material. Or the second way, it's going to try to engrave, which just means cut part way through the material. If I take a shape and I can draw things over here, if I draw a square on here, I can set its size up here, and I can do all kinds of things. But really all that matters is this square going to be cut or engraved? And I can drag images on here and all kinds of stuff, and the question to ask, is it going to be cut or engraved? And so if I want it to be cut, what I would do is I would make my shape or my object, and I would select it, and it's got all the dots around it so I know it's selected. And I would go up here to this little tiny thing, which hopefully you can kind of see on there, and it says this is basically your line weight. I'm going to click hairline. A hairline is super tiny. It's 0.001, or maybe even 0.0001. It's super duper tiny. Hairlines, when the laser etcher sees a hairline, it automatically knows we want to cut it. If I take another shape like a circle here, and I put that down, if I have any line weight besides hairline, the machine is gonna know that I just want to engrave that. So I'm gonna make this awesome circle square design that I've just created. Kind of looks like the flag of Japan a little bit, tiny bit maybe, in black and white. If I want to print this, the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hit Control P, or I can go to File and Print. And this is kind of like you're using a computer, like just a regular paper printer. The only thing you really have to check, everything should be set up pretty much for you ahead of time. The big thing you have to check is you have to click on Preferences, and every single time it's going to bring up a specific menu that's just for the laser. Here, can you feed me a little more cord? That's just for the engraver itself. And this specific menu, I have all these settings, and these are really important. The first thing I have to change every time is I have to make this, instead of 8.5 by 11, I have to change the piece size to 24 inches horizontal width and 12 inches height. And if you forget that size, you can simply look inside of the laser etching machine and see what size the bed is. I changed that first, and after I've changed that, I'm trying to get this, let me position this for a minute, get this all set up. After I change that, I've got to make some other big decisions on how I go to print. This is awesome because this is all backwards for whoever has to deal with this. Once I've set that, I'm good to go, but I need to decide some major decisions here. To simplify it, a lot of times I am just doing either cutting or engraving. If I want to cut, I would say my job type is vector. If I want to engrave, I would say my job type is raster. If I want to do both, like I am in this particular thing, I would say combined. On the left, you have something called your resolution. This is dots per inch of engraving. Typically, you want to match your document. Somewhere between 250 and 400 is a good position to choose, and really, unless you kind of read about this and decide it needs to go to something else, you pretty much have it at 250 or 400 as far as I understand. The most important settings are over here to your right. The upper menu here is for raster, that's your engraving, and your lower setting here is for vector, and that's your cutting. And if either of these settings are way off, you'll have major issues. Even if they're off a little bit, you can have issues. Examples of issues would be like, if you're cutting cardboard, it'll set the cardboard on fire if it's set wrong. Another issue might be that it doesn't cut the material or engrave the material you're trying to engrave. So usually we try to do little tests and follow charts to get an idea of what a good setting is. I'm going to cut cardboard today. That's cardboard, but you can't see it very well. I'm going to cut cardboard, and I kind of already know some good settings for cardboard. I've done some testing. We'll just go to vector and we'll try to cut cardboard. So now only the vector settings are lit up. The things I have to choose are how fast the laser moves, how much power the laser is using, and the frequency. The frequency is how many times the laser fires per second. So at 2500 hertz, the frequency, the laser would go, it would fire 2500 times a second. And the power is basically how bright or how much heat the laser is putting off. The speed is how fast it's moving across the surface. So you got to get kind of all three of these in balance for it to work. I use a chart, which is right now hanging over here. The charts look like this. And if I look down through there, I see things on the chart that tell me kind of different types of materials. Unfortunately, cardboard isn't really on that chart. The closest thing to it is hidden back here, matte board. It says for a 50 watt laser, which is what we have, it says 25 speed, 40 power, and 50 frequency. So that's what we're going to try. So I'm going to go over here. It said 50 frequency, which is way down here. I don't know if we can see this. It says 50 frequency. And matte board is, oh man, matte board is similar to, it doesn't let me do that. Now it's 54 frequency, 50 frequency. And what do we say, 25 power? What was the speed over there, do you remember?
25. That's it.
Here, I'll look again. I can sneak back there. It said, for a 50 watt laser, matte board says 25 speed, 40 power. So we'll set that 25 speed and 40 power. And this one's ready to try. So I'm going to hit OK in a second. Before I do, I'm going to turn on this whole system so I can use it. There's three things I have to turn on in order to use the laser machine. I'm going to turn on a button on the side of it down here. That's the first thing. And I'll hear it kind of starting up. And I might see lights coming on the side and that kind of stuff. Then I'm going to turn on, down below the machine, there's a giant blue box. I'm going to turn on the green switch on there. That's going to start up some fans. That's actually going to suck the smoke out of the machine so it doesn't fill up our room with smoke as we cut. And the third thing is down underneath this table, there's a little white thing that looks like a little robot or something. It has a power cord, I believe. Yeah, this is the power cord for that. I'm going to plug this in. And I can definitely tell this is running because the noise has changed, and I can also put my hand on it. I can feel that it's kind of like a motor inside that's moving. And now I'm going to check my laser bed. Can I? Here, I can have you hold this. Sneak back here. I basically can lift this up, and I've got this bed in here, which I'm going to be laser etching on in just a minute. I'm going to take a piece of cardboard. I'm going to put it in here, and then I have a couple little jobs to do. If I try to print right now on that particular piece of cardboard, it's not going to be in focus with the laser. And since the laser's out of focus, it'll just end up burning giant chunks of, there's an example, it'll just burn a big splotch of cardboard or wood or whatever I have in here. So to focus the laser, that's kind of the first thing I have to do. I'm gonna go over here, and I'm gonna hit a button that says focus. And as soon as I hit that focus button, it brought out the laser bed. And on this thing, there's a little magnetic thingy right here that you can flip down. It's a spring-loaded, a spring-loaded little thing. And I'm going to move the tray, and here's what I do. I see this up and down area. I'm going to move the tray up. I'm holding up, and the tray is moving up right now. I'm going to move it all the way up until it makes contact. Just about makes contact with that. Hopefully you can kind of see what I'm doing. Holding the camera and this at the same time. I'm trying to get it to where it just makes contact. I just push the up and down arrows, and that is good. That's now focused. I'm going to move this thing back up and out of the way. And before I actually go to print, before I actually go through with my printing, I want to check and make sure that I'm going to print in the right place. And to do that, there's a thing right here that says pointer, and the pointer is like a laser pointer. If I click pointer, it's going to put a little tiny laser dot somewhere in here, and right now it would be on my fingertip. This is not the same laser that cuts. The laser that cuts is much hotter and it reflects off a mirror, and it's actually like, it looks white almost when it's cutting. So this laser is to kind of give you an idea where it's going to cut. What I'm going to do, here, can you hold this? I'm going to do a little check. I'm going to set this to 0. I'm going to set it to 0 power just for a second, so that no matter what, it doesn't cut. And I'm going to click OK, and I'm going to click print, and I'm going to close this lid, and I hit print. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hit a button that says go over here. Once you go over there, and we'll watch what it does. It's going to print in the wrong spot. I want to see that for sure. I'm going to hit go. It's supposed to be cutting with 0 power. It didn't really. It ended up cutting in the wrong spot. So I'm going to hit stop. And I'm going to basically cancel that entirely and say that was a fail. I didn't like it. I'm going to go back to my original design. I'm going to scoot over here. Scoot this over here. And the problem is, right now my design is actually bigger than my cardboard. I'm going to change this a little bit. Okay, let's say this is what I want to print now. Going back in here, I hit Control P, open up the printer menu. I'm going to hit Preferences. My size is still correct. I'm going to choose Vector again. I'm still at 0 power. And we're going to try printing again and see if it prints. If it prints directly on the cardboard. We want to make sure that it's on the cardboard. I'm going to hit the go button. Now it's going. It's still off. So I'm going to hit stop. I basically have a couple options at this point. An easy option to fix this would be to just move the cardboard to the location that I want it to print at. A lot of times you're cutting, you don't really care about the scrap material. You mostly just care about what it is you're cutting. There's also different ways that if there's a teacher here, they can help you calibrate the laser to cut in an exact spot, which is a little more involved. I'm going to try to print this one more time. I'm going to hit go. Let's see if it's printing closer now. Now it's getting closer. It looks like it's going to print on that exact spot. Let's see if it turns see where it turns down. It's basically printing an outline. It's trying to cut an outline. Man, that is so much bigger than I thought it was. Okay. We're going to hit stop. I'm going to get this way over here. Normally I'd have a bigger piece of cardboard. Alright. We're going to try to print it for real and see what happens. I'm going to go to preferences and I'm going to change the power back up to our setting. It said what, 40? Okay, now I'm going to try to print for real and see what happens. Whenever I print for real with actual power, I'm always standing right over top of it to kind of watch what's going on. And after I hit the go button, I've got to be ready to hit stop. If there's ever any problem, I hit stop. And a problem would be like if you notice a flame, especially a flame that's any bigger than like if you lit a cigarette lighter or something. Sometimes you'll see little wisps of flame. That's okay. We just don't want any like big flame. I'm going to go ahead and hit go, and it should cut. And right now you can see it's actually cutting the cardboard, and it's cutting the shape we wanted on the cardboard. It's super exciting. It actually is really fun to watch. To watch this. There's your flames. So we're really near. That's actually not quite big enough where I'm going to shut it down. But that's because it's catching the edge of the paper. And it is trying to kind of snuff itself out there, it looks like. Yeah, if you see flames, or if you see something burning, one of the big temptations is to immediately open the lid, like because you're in a panic. And because of all the things that are sucking air through here, it'll flood a bunch of oxygen into that area, and it'll actually make the flame go a lot bigger. So if you see something happening, like if there's an emergency and you lift the lid, it will shut off the laser and stuff, but it'll also flood the area with oxygen. So if you want to stop the whole thing, you want to shut stuff down, do it electronically by hitting the stop button. I guess if you were really in a panic and it wasn't stopping fast enough or something, you could always shut off the main power switch on the side or something, but you don't want to just open the lid. I let stuff sit in there for, I don't know, 30 seconds or something so it doesn't smell all smoky when I'm taking it out. But for this, I'm going to go ahead and open it up, and I should see where it cut. This is our little test sample. We can see where it cut. It really looked like it burned quite a bit inside. So I would probably want to mess with my settings a little more to see if I could get something that left less of a burnt edge. Usually you try a couple samples of whatever material you're going to cut before you cut something you really care about. So that's our little test with cardboard, and that's about it.